Garden tour, May 31st, 2012, my last day in Indiana, starting off with the blueberry bush, which, as you can see, has some blueberries that are ripening, but on each cluster there are also many empty blueberry buds, which is from what I think are birds that have been chirping in the background and coming in here and eating these when they're not yet ripe. Looks like they got to that whole cluster. So, I think our garden is becoming more well known, and these animals know that they can stop here and maybe find something. We've put up this bunny rabbit with some brightly colored ribbons that has at least let this cucumber grow. We should probably plant some more seeds on this bump since the 4 we planted here didn't take off. One actually started, but there was such a piece of wood that was blocking right where the leaf needed to turn up that it wasn't able to blossom properly. We also got these marigolds here, which should keep other pests away. Looking down here is a nice example of the second round of carrot crops, as are these here and this row along there. We had to plant a second crop because they were being eaten by birds too. Since the radishes have been coming up well, we've been planting them in whatever spare parts we have, such as those rows, that cluster. Then this is the habanero plant Dad got from Tom Ferguson. It's a little bit of dirt to brush off the leaves, but it's doing well. Wonder if there are any traces of buds here. It looks like there might be some of the smallest ones in the middle of that. But then further down, we have a line of cilantro plants that are growing well enough. Could perhaps use some thinning down towards here, but them taking off is even more important than that. I wonder if these Brussels sprout plants will eventually come to overshadow them. You can see the biggest leaves are, approaching the size of a hand. We have the 4 plants here. We even have a couple, 2 there, and maybe 2 on this one too. But the Brussels sprouts should be coming out from the stalks in the middle. There's a view down into those. Then into this garden bin, which has the basil plants here that are all 3 looking strong and healthy despite suffering from some rainstorms that left their leaves with holes in them earlier. And then this lettuce has gone through the winter and is still going. As you can see, I haven't picked it in like 3 days, so it's flowering everywhere. There's still some thicker lettuce leaves down here worth picking, and it's also good to pick the ones that look like they're going to not get any better, such as this leaf. Has a spot on it, but it's fine. I put these on sandwiches. And then the last basil plant that we transplanted, I feel like it still feels a little bit different from the 3 that made it into the ground earlier, but it's doing fine too. And it's always good to pick the biggest ones since they also have new growths coming out from that same point. And then here we have one of the peppers. You can see we've got some early peppers growing in there, maybe even up to 5 on them. One of the problems we had last year was that the peppers were ripening, or they were growing big toward the end of the season, so rather than grow them from seed this year, we planted ones that we bought, and there are some even further along. First it'll be that flower blossom, and then the pepper will come through inside of it. Here's the 3rd pepper, bell pepper plant. Then the arugula in the smallest, medium, larger varieties, and we can see that it's bolted, which is why this one's so tall, which is what means when a plant shoots up in a bolt formation and loses the sort of production head that was down there. There's another arugula and another arugula, all of which have had the same thing, but still holding on, and can probably take a couple leaves off as desired. Then here we have the turnip bed, which I planted in the fall, didn't take off, and then began to grow. We can see a nice one there. We're still figuring out ways to cook them, but the turnip greens are their edible leaves as well. Here's the okra plants, which even despite this one looking terribly weathered, do have some growth down there, also there. So I feel like these plants are still surviving in a strong stalk, maybe what's most important. Then these ones are doing better, and got some growth there, usually 5 or 6 pieces of okra per head. Some more turnips. I feel like these are nearly all at their maximum growth point, so we can pick them up anytime we want and fill this whole area with okra. And now we've reached the tomato side, which features this rosa tomato plant with the thickest leaves out of the tomatoes we're growing here. I already have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tomatoes ripening on the vine, so pretty early in the season, but they'll just get plumper and plumper until they turn red, which will indicate their readiness, and hopefully they'll stay pest free. There's even a smaller upper growth example. And then scattered through here we have more radishes that are all growing up. Then the beefsteak tomato plant, which features some blossoms there, and this big bud, which as you can see already has some sort of burrower in there. I feel like we could probably take that out before it gets any worse, and the rest of the tomato would end up being concentrated on instead. Some more blossoms, and we already have it in the ringer and given this support. Then here are all pear tomatoes. Who knows, we may end up keeping them all. We wanted to see which ones would grow the best, and they're all doing sort of fine and not crowding each other out yet. So we have the radishes growing in the middles here too. More radishes. And the bigger radishes that are ready to pull up at different stages. This one has these flowers on it. I don't even know if there's a radish at the bottom of this, but there isn't really. Either way, this may have some radish seeds on it. I wonder how they compare to the radish seeds we have in the containers. And then guys like this one are turning up and fairly well formed. Not the biggest one, but definitely longer than some of the strictly ball-shaped ones we've had. And we have some smaller growth throughout in between as well too. And so there's this bed, the rest of the yard, and coming over to the strawberry bush, which has all of these. I guess they'll continue. I feel like they could be looking better, but maybe they just don't start off red. We just have so many of the red ones in the yard that are doing alright. But either way, the plant itself looks healthy, so that's as important as anything. Here are some of the examples of the shooters that'll help this plant spread, and could even take up this whole space down there, since we just have some shrubs growing there. The two plants, or the two pines, and this thing, usually I take the hose all the way up to the front and around, do the furthest watering, then come back. I'll hit the garden again then. Usually I'll hit the garden actually first through here, water both of those, then bring it back around, take the far reaches over to the ferns and the lilies, bring it back around, do the woodruff, the ivy in front, the grasses over there, and the peonies right there, along with the rose bushes there. Then bring it back, hitting all these, making sure to get the strawberries. These right here worth getting, and then have to drag this all the way down so we get all of its back length cut. Then prefer to hit those lilies back there while we can. Go through, get those on the corner, keeping this clip under 10 minutes. Hit all that, don't forget that. The rose bushes, hit these. Then the ivy, Norfolk pine, then the rest of those, and we're out.